Tiny Tales Podcast, Tiny Tales Podcast, Tiny Tales. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe.
Imagine this for a second. Go to sleep tonight, and you wake up tomorrow morning, you look at the clock, it's been, 8 hours? But for you, it feels like you've lived an entire second lifetime. 40 years of subjective experience lived in just absolute terrifying isolation, all while your body was just sleeping.
That is the staggering paradox at the heart of our deep dive today. We're looking at sources from a man who calls himself Mark. He claims he went to bed one night around 11 or 12
Yeah.
and instantly woke up in what he called a hyper-realistic prison. He endures 4 decades of this psychological torment, and then returns to his body the next morning.
And he's just fundamentally changed. Our mission here is to really extract the most insightful and, frankly, the most chilling details from Mark's account. We need to understand the specifics of this prison, analyze the torment, which, relied entirely on deprivation and sound, and then grapple with his return and the warning he feels he has to deliver.
It's a story that really forces you to question what you think you know about consciousness and, well, time itself.
Okay, let's unpack this.
So Mark's shift from his normal life to this prison was jarring. The sources say he woke up there and instantly knew it was a prison. But his first thought was that it felt more realistic than this life.
Wow. Not how did I get here, but this is more real than reality.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The shock wasn't just physical, it was existential.
And the details he gives about the place, they're crucial. They set this tone of just total control and monotonous suffering. Everything was gray.
Everything.
It's a kind of sensory deprivation through uniformity. He says he was wearing gray sweatpants, a gray crew neck sweater, even gray slip-on shoes.
The kind some people call Jackie Chans. Yeah.
Yeah.
He says the walls were gray, the floor was gray.
That total lack of contrast, that's an immediate psychological weapon.
It is. It tells your brain there's nothing to track, nothing to measure time or space against. And on top of that, the whole place was cold, like a real jail.
But the rules were completely different. He talks about this intake process. He saw about 15 other people, men and women, all dressed in gray, all looking just incredibly sad. But get this, they weren't in handcuffs.
Which suggests it's not about physical restraint. It's about psychological defeat from the get-go.
And he thinks that was intake, because after they were all led away, he never saw another person again for the entire time.
The whole 40 years. And there were no guards.
Yeah.
No human correctional officers walking the halls.
None. The only authority, if you can even call it that, came from speakers in the corners of the ceilings.
Just a disembodied voice controlling the doors, telling them where to go.
Yeah.
It's a completely automated, anonymous form of control.
Which is key, right? A normal prison has guards, other inmates, some kind of social dynamic, however awful.
Exactly. This place removed all human interaction. It was a sterile cage designed for nothing but solitude. He was stuck in his cell 24/7, at first just worrying about things like a court date or a phone call.
Earthly things.
Things that, as he soon found out, were never going to happen. The setting itself was the torture mechanism.
And he says it only took a few days for that worry about jail to turn into something much, much darker. He realized, in his words, that he was in hell, or a portion of it anyway.
He wasn't burning, but the psychological isolation was absolute.
And the way that shift happens is because they took away time.
Completely. They eradicated all temporal markers. Think about it. How do you track time? You need reference points.
Yeah.
Mark had none.
No clock, no calendar.
No phone calls, no visits. And this is the detail that really gets me. No meals. And he never felt hungry.
Wait, no appetite? That's the basic rhythm of human life is hunger and eating. If you take that away...
You lose one of the most fundamental markers of a day passing. Precisely.
Yeah.
He said that nothing ever happened. Absolutely nothing at all. When every single cue is removed, time just stretches. It becomes infinite.
And that's when the torment really begins, because the silence is filled with noise.
Yeah, and noise used to harass him. He talks about hearing demons. They'd talk to him, tease him, joke with each other.
And just constantly tell him he would never get out.
And it's all auditory. He couldn't see them. He could only hear their voices, which he said were very scary and different. And they had this evil laugh.
So it's this invisible, constant harassment. It robs him of peace, but it doesn't even give him the distraction of seeing something.
And what's truly remarkable, given this went on for a subjective 40 years, is that he never spoke back.
Not once.
For 40 years of verbal assault, he stayed silent. That's an almost unbelievable act of psychological endurance.
But it still took its toll. He says he tried to track time at first, but the stress was just, you can't even put it into words. He gave up hope after he guessed he'd been there about 10 years.
And that's when the numbness set in.
Right. He accepted it. He figured he was there for eternity, and after that decade, he was surprised that he just got used to it. He developed no more hate or feelings.
That's total psychological defeat. The mind just shuts down to survive.
But there was this one little clue, this bit of foreshadowing from one of the demons.
This part is chilling.
The demon taunted him. It said he could be there forever, get out, and only one day would have passed.
And he just dismissed it. At the time, it's just another taunt, another mind game. But it was the literal truth.
And here's where it gets really interesting.
After what he feels was 40 years in this suspended reality, it just stops.
Yeah.
Instantly. He's suddenly out.
Floating
Between dimensions, he says, moving through the cosmos back to his body.
And during that transit, which took about 5 minutes, he does the math. He knows he's 38 on Earth, but based on what he just endured, he figures he was locked up for a few years longer than my life was on Earth.
Which is how he lands on that 40-year figure. It's a devastating calculation.
5 minutes of floating, and then, boom, I slam into my body.
It's not a gentle awakening. It's a violent collision. His, 80-year-old consciousness smashing back into his 38-year-old body.
And the shock is immediate. He looks around his own room and realizes it's just the next morning.
40 years of cold, of loneliness, of auditory abuse had happened between midnight and sunrise.
That cognitive dissonance, it must have been just shattering.
It was more than just confusing. It was deeply traumatic. The memory was real. It had the weight of 40 years. So the collision between that trauma and the trivial passage of objective time, it came out as pure rage.
Yeah, his reaction was visceral. He ran to the bathroom just yelling, swearing, screaming 40 years and 40 effing years. He says he was madder than I've ever been.
And you can understand why. It's the psyche's release valve for a lifetime of punishment that the real world completely ignored.
His wife heard him, of course. She came in, and he eventually tells her this impossible story, and she felt sorry for me but really didn't know what to say.
I mean, how could you? What could you possibly say to that? He survived a lifetime of pain, but there's no evidence, no way to share that reality. It's the ultimate isolation, even after he's out.
The trauma of that paradox, that's what makes it feel so real. To his mind, he genuinely lived those 40 years.
So after all that, after returning to a world that had only moved on by 8 hours, he had to find some kind of meaning in it. He says, after finding Christ, I finally got my answer.
He didn't just write it off as a nightmare. He found a theological explanation. He believes it was a divine revelation, that Jesus was showing him a specific place.
A kind of holding facility. A prison where some people go before going to hell, before Judgment Day.
And he decided it had a dual purpose. First, it was his punishment, penance for his sins. But second, and this is probably more important to him now, it came with a command.
Right. The experience was meant to be shared.
The command was for him to tell people about this prison so they're aware it exists and can right there ways before it's too late. His personal trauma became this universal warning.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it's a profound artifact.
Yeah.
It suggests that maybe the greatest suffering isn't physical fire, but this eternal mind-bending isolation.
The gray walls, the silence, the lack of hunger, that was the real hell.
That was the punishment. And it's still defining his life. He says he still thinks about it every day. He finds it mind-boggling that since he's 40 now, in real time, he feels like he has actually lived 80 years.
The psychological clock completely overrode the physical one.
The whole journey from that gray cell through 40 years of torment to that furious return. It just provides this terrifying new definition of confinement. It's the efficiency of a system built to maximize suffering by removing the very tools we use to stay sane: time, interaction, and sensory input.
It really makes you confront the power of consciousness to create its own reality, even a reality of absolute punishment, totally independent of the earth turning.
Absolutely. So he feels he's lived 80 years. If an experience of suffering is so real that it literally doubles your perceived lifespan, what does that tell you about the true nature of punishment or reward, in experiences that are completely divorced from earthly clocks? I guess the question I leave you with is, what stands out to you about the fact that 40 years of total sensory-deprived isolation was achieved in a single night? It suggests the real architecture of endurance isn't stone and steel. It's just the absence of simple things like warmth and color and a clock.
Tiny Tales Podcast. Tiny Tales Podcast. Tiny Tales. Don't forget to like, comment.